Surprise bill? Need fast funds? CashNet USA can help. When you need money fast, be the hero.
Apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and get a fast decision. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times.
He's a retired law enforcement officer. He worked 35 years in law enforcement for 4 different departments in 2 different states. He retired as a police chief. He's here to talk about a 13-year-old that was kidnapped, raped, and murdered, the investigation and successful prosecution, another kidnapping, and more. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. In the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, we are joined by special guests talking about their experiences, the realities of investigating crimes, plus those who have experienced horrendous trauma. Police, first responders, military, and victims of crime share their stories. Hi, I'm John J. Wiley. In addition to being a broadcaster, I'm also a retired police sergeant. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com, and also like us on Facebook. Search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Don't you hate when they do the bait and switch on you? When they tell you, check out a website, and it's free to go there, and then there's hidden charges? You won't find any of that nonsense at our website, letradio.com. It's free. It's always been free, and it costs you absolutely nothing. There's no hidden tricks. letradio.com. Check it out today. You can find episodes of the show as available as a podcast after airing on radio. They're always free, always have been, and always will be. Again, that's letradio.com, where it's always free. Joining us from Northern California, we have Brian Brady on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Brian is an interesting guy. 35 years in law enforcement. 35 years. We're not going to make any wisecracks about his mental sanity because, well, let's just say this. I've been saying it a long time. If you work as a modern-day American policeman anywhere, you're going to get dinged, emotionally, mentally, and physically as well. In 4 different departments, 2 states, and he was the police chief for Novato, California. You're from the San Francisco area, if I recall correctly, right, Brian?
I was born and raised in San Francisco, yes.
What a lovely city that is. I went there many, many years ago, spent most of my time in San Jose, went into San Francisco. It was just gorgeous, but none of it I could afford. On my salary, forget about it. I don't know how people live there. I don't know how they do it.
It is expensive. There's no question about that. You're dealing with a really, really small footprint. City is 49 square miles. That's it.
It's not as big as people think. And by the way, it has a really big population, and that whole San Francisco Bay Area is chock full of people. It's not just like you go 15. It's not like Jacksonville, Florida, where you go 15 minutes out of I-10 and you're in stone cold country. You go 15 minutes from downtown LA, you still got a lot of people.
It is. LA is about 10 million. LA County.
Oh, I'm sorry,
and the San Francisco Bay Area is probably 4.5 million or so if you count, from San Jose to San Francisco to Oakland. San Jose is 1 million people. San Francisco is 850,000. Oakland's 500,000. So you roll them all up together, you get about 4.5 million.
And here's one thing I gotta say this, and I know you're still connected with the law enforcement community. The West Coast, with all the problems in the media that the West Coast seems to have, they do a really good job of taking care of their police, especially when it comes to mental health and PTSD and things like that. So please pass along to other people that I said thank you for all they do. It's very much appreciated.
They do. I think we're light years ahead of a lot of places. POST, which is Peace Officer Standard and Training in California, sets standards and holds people's feet to the fire to maintain their credibility and to maintain their certification with the state to have a police department.
Yeah.
So that makes a big difference.
So let's talk about your career. When did you start policing? When did you first go in academy, and when did you retire?
February of 1969, I started the academy in Berkeley.
Oh, you are an old school. You were really old school, man. And there's nothing wrong with that.
On old. I spent 9 years there and left as a sergeant, went down to East LA to the city of Baldwin Park, which is located out in San Gabriel Valley, out in East Los Angeles County, city of about 85,000 people, and stayed there for 2 years. I went down as a lieutenant. And California has an interesting situation where we have CalPERS, which is the California Public Employees Retirement System.
Right.
And most cities subscribe to it in one form or another, whatever they buy into. So that allows you to move from agency to agency and maintain your pension. You don't have to change to a different pension. The notable exceptions being Los Angeles, probably San Francisco, they've changed recently, where they had their own city pension systems. But PERS makes it, I could move from Berkeley to Baldwin Park and keep my pension.
See, that's something I never understood as an East Coast cop. Retiring from Baltimore, I had a chance to go to two agencies. One was Prince George's County Police Department, but I would take, the pay was better, the working conditions, the equipment was better, but I would, at that time, lose seniority. The other one was the Vermont State Police, and I was like, what do you do? And they're like, well, you go home and you eat dinner, you eat lunch, and then you throw in your jumpsuit when you have a call for service. I'm, no, I think I'll pass on that one. But it would go, like, I retired as a sergeant, and I read about people going to other departments at a higher rank. I was like, how's that even possible?
Yeah, the Baldwin Park had a statewide test. So I was able to apply, and I made the cut to the final 10. So I was invited down there to go through an assessment center and got the job. So I spent 2 years with them, and then I saw a job opening in Farmington, New Mexico for a captain. So I put in for that and got it. So I spent 4 years in New Mexico up in the Four Corners area. And after 4 years, I saw an opening back in Northern California, Novato, which is about 30 miles north of San Francisco, close to home, family, et cetera. So I applied for that. That was a captain's job. And I kept that position for 10 years. And then I was appointed chief in 92 and served for 12 years, left in December of 2003.
Wow. Well, you had a long career, and thank you for your service. It's very much appreciated. During that, and we throw around ranks, and most police departments across the United States, and sheriff's departments as well, they have a paramilitary type structure. You have a chain of command. So in my agency, it was police officer and agent, meaning you had a college degree, but they're the same rank. Then you had sergeant, then you had lieutenant, then you had captain, then you had the command staff. But everybody had certain jobs to do. So if you were captain or lieutenant, it was what was your job? And part of your job was overseeing investigations, serious criminal investigations, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Lieutenant, you were a watch commander, and then a lieutenant would be in charge of investigations under a captain who would be in charge of a division that would include investigations and whatever all else was under that division head.
And I was talking to my wife, I call her the boss, the other day, and explaining, in our department at least, things have changed. But in the department I worked in, the sergeants, we had 13, sometimes 14 people under us. The lieutenants usually had 4. They had 3 or 4 sergeants below them. Captains had 4 lieutenants, 5 lieutenants. That was it. So the ones who did the bulk of the management was the first line managers, the sergeants. Was that the case for you?
Sure. We tried to cut the supervisor subordinate ratio. 14 is crazy. That's a lot of folks to try and keep an eye on.
Oh man, I got bald spots in my head right now from that.
Yeah, we tried to keep it down around 5 or 6, and even with that, it's still, if you're doing a competent job, trying to do evaluations on people, read reports, mentor people, do everything that has to be done, that's still full time. So, and again, we're very fortunate out here where when you get promoted to sergeant, you have 1 year, your agency does, to comply with post. You have to be sent to an 80-hour approved supervisory course, or your promotion will be invalidated.
Yeah, we had to do that supervisor's mandated training as well. When we return, we're going to talk about investigating serious crimes. And this was one in my police career that I never did, kidnapping. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea how to, that led to rape, a brutal rape and murder of a 13-year-old. Brian's going to share some behind-the-scenes looks, the reality of what happens. And he's now an author. He's got several books. He's got one coming out. Let me go to my notes. The first book's Oh, What a Tangled Web. Hiding in Plain Sight is another one, and the one that's coming out very soon is called Greed. His website's goldengatetales.com. It's Golden Gate Bridge. goldengatetales.com. This is Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. We're going to take a short break. I promise you, we'll be right back. If you do any business on social media, creating content is one thing. The trick is, how do you turn those people that comment on your social media into consumers? There's a great tool, and you can get more information at letpops.com. That's letpops.com. Best of all, you can get started for free. letpops.com. Check it out today.
Looking for love but tired of the games? Shot at Love is your ultimate playbook for finding the real thing. Written by Carrie Brett, celebrity photographer, podcaster turned dating expert. Learn insider secrets, proven strategies, and inspiring stories to help you. Whether you're starting over or leveling up, Shot at Love gives you the confidence to take your best shot. Get it at shotatlovebook.com. Shotatlovebook.com.
This is a mini meditation guided by Bombas. Repeat after me. I'm comfy. I'm cozy. I have 0 blisters on my toes. And that's because I wear Bombas, the softest socks, underwear, and t-shirts that give back. One purchased equals one donated. Now go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
That's shotatlovebook.com.
Return our conversation with Brian Brady on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Brian is retired chief of police for Novato, California. He's got 35 years experience in 4 different agencies in 2 different states. Berkeley and Novato were 2 of the prominent ones. And he's author of multiple books, Oh, What a Tangled Web, Hiding in Plain Sight, and soon to be released Greed. His website is goldengatetales.com. That's goldengatetales.com. I promise you we'll talk about the books and website a little bit later on. Before we end the break, Brian, we're talking about many things I encountered in my police career. The one thing I never handled was a kidnapping. And they really are not as, I hate to say, as prevalent as Hollywood loves to put out, but when they are, it's usually very, very bad. And if my memory is correct, and it often is not as I get older, that if you don't get a serious lead on the victim of the kidnapping within 24 hours, the chances are going, it's almost like a homicide. The chances go down very quickly, don't they?
It's true. There's it's complicated, and depending on why the person was kidnapped, too. You have kidnapping for ransom, you have child abduction, you have various forms of kidnapping, and each one of them gives you a whole different set of circumstances to work against.
Yeah, and I said we never had. So we think of, traditionally, I think of kidnapping as the one for ransom. That's not that often. More tends to happen are the abductions, the armed abductions with bank robberies, other robberies, sometimes with sex offenders invading homes and stealing children. This was the case with a 13-year-old young lady, I believe, that was kidnapped, raped, and murdered. Was she taken from her own home?
No, she was not kidnapped from the house. She left the house late afternoon. She had an argument with her mom about some grades at school, and she left home, walked from the house down to a shopping center, small strip mall type center, and didn't come home right away. So mom got concerned. Typically, as it gets dark, the police get the call that she's missing. So it starts out as a missing person, and knowing that the argument had taken place, that she was mad at her mom, and she had kind of gone off in a huff. Possibly she's at a friend's house. Possibly she's just making her mom suffer. So that was an issue we had to deal with to start out. We started with her friends, obviously look at, could she be spending the evening with a girlfriend, et cetera. So boyfriends weren't so much an issue at her age, but girlfriends, yes. And with each phone call and each contact, we were turning up nothing. So as the evening wore on, we continued down that road, But by morning, now we were severely worried that someone had taken her.
Right. And here's the thing. I people say this all the time. It's like, well, the police didn't believe it. We have to go by evidence. And when I was a kid, Brian, I don't know for the life of me why, but I would make a big deal about running away from home. I'd draw up an audience. I'd throw the backpack together, and I'd leave crying, making a real huff of a scene, and walk down the street and realize, man, I'm going to eat dinner. Oh, back at the house. I better get back. That's what I did.
Yeah.
But parents, they were used to that. They didn't call the police. When someone is gone, quite often parents, their stomach lets them know that something's not right. But you, as a police officer, you've got to go by the evidence that's seen, that is presented to you. Am I drawing any wrong conclusions when it comes to that?
No, and sometimes agencies have policies that say, well, it's not officially a missing person for 24 hours, or it's not officially a kidnapping until you get a ransom note or whatever. We didn't do that. We didn't have that. When a 13-year-old's gone, they're gone, and as far as we're concerned, and we're going to put the resources necessary to try and find her. And if it turns out we spin our wheels a little bit and she's at a girlfriend's house, so be it. It's still time and money well spent.
Yeah. No, I'd rather make an error doing the right thing. And this is something that sergeants drilled into my head when I was a rookie. And same with the old cops. And by the way, I was broken in and trained by, and probably you, I was trained by a lot of Vietnam combat veterans. And one of the things they insisted on was you do your job all the time. That way you never have to apologize, you never have to make a mistake. And you can't go back. So I'd rather err on the side of doing your job and protecting life than err on the side of not.
That's true. And just as an aside, I think when I was a sergeant, one of the things that was drummed into me and I tried to instill in the officers, and I see it today, it kind of me off, for lack of a better word. You see police officers driving around in their little black and white cocoon with the window rolled up. And
that was the first thing that was told. Roll down the window so you can hear.
Yeah, I don't care if it's raining. You got to have the window down. You can't hear anything. So that's one of my pet peeves, but that's old school stuff.
We could talk about it all day long. One of the things that got to me, Brian, was, Baltimore in summertime, it got blazing hot. In the wintertime, it got really cold. There was in very short period of fall and spring, it was wonderful. But we were always conditioned that you got out of your car when you didn't have a call, you weren't going somewhere, you got out of your car and you walked and you shook hands, you said hello to people. And I had an old sergeant, my first post, he said, if I pull you up 1 month from now and I point to someone and you don't know who they are, you don't know where they live, and you don't know whether they're a good guy or bad guy, you're not doing your job, and I'll find someone else who will. Yeah,
that's very true. And I was fortunate starting in Berkeley that their philosophy was to put officers on very small beats, geographic beats, and you were one officer to a car, and you were obligated for everything that happened on that beat for that shift 365 days a year. It was what they call the generalist system. So you handled everything.
Yeah.
And you learned how to investigate. You learned who belonged. As you said, you knew if you worked midnight shift, who got off the bus at 12 o'clock that was working the 4 to 12 shift at a factory down the road. You knew where that person was going, where they lived, and you knew who didn't belong. So that was critical, no question about it.
I want to get back to the conversation about the 13-year-old. So she had kind of had a spat with her mother and left. And you said you became alarmed. The police department became alarmed and worried the next day. What happened then?
Well, we were, as we said, we started going through the friends, and we'd exhausted the friends to no avail. So we did find out that she had gone to the shopping area, bought an ice cream, had talked to some friends down there, and then that she was going to go home, and that she left the shopping center, and there's a small creek behind the shopping center, and she walked along the creek, and it ultimately would lead to a boulevard and then on the way back up to the house. So at that point, we started the door-to-door. We went from the house to the shopping center, literally knocking on every door, both sides of the street. Anyone see her? Went back to the main street where the creek followed determined about what time of day it was, started interviewing people. There were bus stops, went to the bus stops, who's at the bus stop.
You never know. We called that old school police work. We're going to take a short break on the note. We're talking with Brian Brady. He's a retired police officer, 35 years experience in California. His website is goldengatetales.com. And he has 3 books in publication. One's coming out very soon called Greed. Hiding in Plain Sight, the other, and Oh, What a Tangled Web. When we return, we'll get more details about the investigation, prosecution, the rape, kidnapping, and murder of his 13-year-old child.
Your golden years are supposed to be easy and worry-free, at least in regards to finances. If you are over 70, you can turn your life insurance policy into cash. Visit letsavings.com. That's letsavings.com. letsavings.com. Or call 866-480-4252. Again, that's 866-480-4252 to see if you qualify.
Here's your chance to get into the ground floor, to make a donation to make the movie Gun Runner, based off of the true story of now retired police detective Maria Oliveira, who shot 6 times while investigating a crime, died 3 times, brought back to life, has been in a hospital for a month, rushed back to work, only to suffer a near-fatal heart attack, and then several months later, a near-fatal stroke. It talks about his recovery, his life after, and more. That's at gunrunnerfilm.com. Again, you can make a donation at gunrunnerfilm.com.
Back so soon? Oh no, what happened?
A little incident at the dog park. We gotta head to the vet.
Oh, not again. These bills.
We can use CashNet USA. We can apply in minutes, get a fast decision, and have the money in the account as soon as the same business day. All right, Cheddar, back in the car.
When you need money fast, be the hero. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times. See CashNetUSA.com for more details.
Turn conversation with Brian Brady, contacting us from California. He's a retired police officer, 35 years in 4 different departments in 2 different states. He was retired police chief for Novato, California. He's author of multiple books, Oh, What a Tangled Web, Hiding in Plain Sight, and soon to be released a book called Greed. His website is goldengatetales.com. That's goldengatetales.com. That'll tell you he's in Northern California in the San Francisco Bay Area. Before we went to break, Brian, we're talking about the neighborhood canvas. You're checking the scenes where this young lady went, and I imagine you were striking out. Your department was striking out. You weren't finding any clues, any evidence. Did something change to make you go, aha?
Actually, 2 things. The first one, in local law enforcement, we frequently end up at loggerheads with the FBI on occasion.
On occasion?
I shouldn't say frequently, on occasion. So we had a resident agency in San Rafael, which is a city just below us in Marin County. And the supervisor at the agency there is a really good guy, great guy. And a couple of the agents we had worked with before on cases, and they were terrific to work with. So I talked with him, and he said, what we can do, I'll call Washington, and we have a missing and exploited children's division worked out of their profiling section, and they could plug this in, and I could get some manpower from the Bureau. Uh-huh. Well, that was the incredible gift horse. He showed up the next day, literally, or that evening, with about 30 agents, and we were able then to literally canvass everything. A witness came forward and saw the girl get on a bus. So we started with the bus stop, and we stopped the buses for like a 2-hour period before and after when she was supposedly seen getting on the bus. We stopped the buses going in both directions. We interviewed every person on the bus. We interviewed people in the businesses around the bus. We interviewed the bus drivers. You name it, we were talking to them. And were it not for the Bureau, quite frankly, we couldn't have done it. We just didn't have the personnel. But they showed up with all these extra bodies and made our job so much easier. Now, we also brought in a canine. And the canine was from Sonoma County, and it's a bloodhound. And the bloodhound's name was Sadie. I still remember the dog. And she went to the ice cream store, and she took the trail from the house to the ice cream store, took the trail from the ice cream store up the creek, and stopped at the back area of a church that faced onto the main boulevard. Didn't go any further. So we said, okay, well, the dog did a good job up to here, but we have a witness that said, kind of shined on the dog and moved forward interviewing everybody. All the interviews yielded nothing. So we're now 4 days into this case, and we get a call from a rancher on the outskirts of town, just outside our city limits, that found a body in a garbage bag. So fearing the worst, we go out there, and sure enough, it's our homicide victim, our kidnapping victim. And so it's actually in the sheriff's jurisdiction because it's just outside our city limits. So the sheriff's people are there. And once again, all the jurisdictional went by the wayside. Everybody was concerned we had to find this person. So the sheriff's launched a joint investigation with us. We still maintain being the lead agency. They supplied us again with personnel. They gave us a juvenile supervisor. The Bureau was still helping. So we now move to the autopsy stage. We find out that she was, beaten and strangled, raped, and then dumped in the garbage bag.
Yeah, and there's no real way to reply to that. And I've had I'm a father of two daughters, and my wife, and I have 4 younger sisters, my mother. My dad passed away many years ago, and I try to tell them all the time, especially women, you've got to be aware of your surroundings all the time. And if something doesn't look right, it just might save your life. And the second thing, Brian, was the brutality that people can inflict on each other is, and you know this from policing, it's astronomical, unbelievable what happens. And really, it's amazing when it's so-called loved ones that do that.
Yeah, that's very true. And in this case, we were, you go back to almost to square one. You've exhausted the neighborhood check. You've exhausted the buses, the bus stops. So now the coroner is going to give you, the medical examiner is going to give you the cause of death. So at least you have that, and you're not looking for the person anymore. Now you're switching to looking for who did this.
Right.
Well, as it turns out, when we moved the body to the medical examiner's office, the officer that was assigned at that point, in the trash bag, he finds a coloring book. Now, that seems fairly insignificant. However, it turns out it's a religious coloring book. And we took that and found the publisher's name, contacted the publisher, and found out what churches in our general area bought the book for their preschoolers, basically.
And then Sadie, the canine, the bloodhound, stopped at a church. Am I wrong?
Yeah, so far, you're right on top of it, and Sadie's going to be the hero. We find out that one of the churches that uses the book is the very church where Sadie stopped. So we go to the church, we talk to the pastor, completely cooperative, and he invites us to come in, look around, which we do. He gives us a list of people who work at the church, contractors, and anyone else who was there. We find in a room near the rear of the church that there's some pretty distinctive discoloring on a carpet, which someone is trying to cover up a stain by using coffee to put on that and coffee grounds to try and eliminate the stain. And we were highly suspicious at that point. We were able to get evidence from that. And we started down at that stage with interviewing people who were employees of the church, contractors, et cetera. So at the end of about, it wasn't much more than about 24 hours, we had narrowed the field to an individual who was a custodian, volunteer, and kind of part-time at the church. He also had a job at a fast food, service station. So we centered on him and did some background on him, financials, virtually everything we could find. And he had a credit card history on, at that time, what were 976 numbers, which used to be the porn calling numbers.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that raised some red flags. So, again, we turned to the Bureau for a polygrapher, and this guy agreed to come in and take a polygraph. Well, the polygrapher of the Bureau was great. He was, as a matter of fact, I think he teaches or was teaching in their course in Chronicle. And he did the pre-interview, and he walked out and said, I don't need me to hook this guy up. He's your guy. So our lead investigator, then Mirandized him and started on the interview. And the guy, after about 15 minutes, just gave it up and explained that he had been working at the back of the church. The young girl came up the creek bed exactly like the dog said she did. He offered her a lemonade. She accepted it. Again, here's a guy coming out the back door of a church. He's got to be harmless, or he's got to be a good guy. So she goes in. The kitchen area has the lemonade. He said he came on to her. She rejected him. He strangled her. She was still alive, so he hit her with a baseball bat. And then he stuffed her in a garbage bag, drove out to the city limits, and threw her in a ditch.
We're going to take a short break on that note. We're talking with Brian Brady, talking about the investigation of the kidnapping, rape, and murder of a 13-year-old girl in California. He's author of 3 books, Oh, What a Tangled Web, Hiding in Plain Sight, and soon-to-be-released Greed. His website is goldengatetales.com. We're going to take a short break. I promise you, we'll be right back.
Time is running out to secure the Medicare coverage you deserve. Whether you're enrolling for the first time or looking for a better plan, our experts help you compare options to get more benefits, lower costs, and keep your doctors, all for free. Visit LEThealthy.com, LETHEALTHY.com. That's LEThealthy.com, or call 866-427-1225, 866-427-1225 to learn more.
Remember when free meant free? No charge, no credit card information needed. Well, a place like that still exists on the internet. The Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show website, LETradio.com. Where everything is free, including the podcast, episodes are available after airing on radio. The website is LETradio.com. That's LETradio.com. Where free means free.
Oh, I've got too many bills.
If you need funds, you can apply in minutes at CashNetUSA.com and have the money in your account as soon as the same business day.
Okay, got it. Applying now.
They've been helping hardworking people cover emergency expenses since 2004.
Hey, look, I got it.
You've got this.
When you need money fast, be the hero. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times. See CashNetUSA.com for more details.
Return conversation with Brian Brady on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Brian's retired police officer, 35 years in 4 different departments, retired as a police chief for Novato, California. He's author of multiple books, Oh, What a Tangled Web, Hiding in Plain Sight, and soon-to-be-released Greed. His website is goldengatetales.com. That's goldengatetales.com. Brian, before I forget, because I did earlier, thank you for your service. Very much appreciated. And thanks for telling a story on the show that's also very appreciated. This guy gave it up. He said that he did everything. And was there evidence to corroborate that?
Yeah, we were able to recover the bat. We were able to get, and you got to remember, this is 1989. This is DNA is in its infancy, but we had the evidence on the bat. We had the bag. We actually they had the confession. So it was interesting turn of events, and it came to a head so quickly. We felt pretty comfortable we had the right guy, but we were anticipating, an interview and then getting information about the interview and then continuing on. When he confessed immediately, And he was remorseful. I mean, for lack of a better word, he truly was. He wanted to die. He literally, at the conclusion of this, when the charges were placed at the DA's office, he told his attorney he wanted to plead guilty and get the death penalty. That's how he saw himself. That's how bad he felt. And I'm not excusing what he did. I'm not in any way, shape, or form making excuses for him. It's just that he was not a serial killer. He was not somebody who was out there stalking young women. He did this. It was a horrible act. And he felt enough remorse that he wanted to be put to death for it.
Generally, and this is, I'm going to ask your opinion on something. When we get confronted with these movies, Hollywood loves the concept of the evil genius, the criminal mastermind. Most of these cases, they're spur of the moment, they're passion driven, though this one probably was not. And they leave clues. They leave a lot of evidence. Even back in the day, and I policed back before we had DNA as well, fingerprints, fiber analysis, gunshot evidence, all that stuff. This guy did not leave. He was not a criminal genius, is what I'm getting at.
No, not at all. And we were, it's for the family, the closure was fairly quick, which was great as far as trying to give them some solace. And he ultimately, because you can't plead to a death penalty case, you actually have to go in front of a judge, and the evidence has to be presented, et cetera. He took a life without possibility of parole plea. So he never went to trial, even though whatever evidence we had, and we had significant evidence, we didn't need it. Once he confessed, he had no desire to go to trial. He just wanted to go to jail.
So one of the things, and when you get that moment where they give it up, for me, it was like, oh, this really happened. Because, again, we see Hollywood all the time where it's like the hardcore criminal, and most are not like that. Most, from my experience, will give it up. And you don't have to do phone books and the spotlight and that stuff they talk about. It's just have a conversation with them.
No, we had a really good investigator. The detective that was assigned to the case was a top-notch, first-class investigator, and he had that unique. It's a skill set that all the good investigators have. Their interview is not an interrogation; it's really a conversation.
Right. And
you watch a good interviewer will sit down and talk to somebody, and the suspect confesses and ends up shaking the interviewer's hand, literally. I mean, there's a bond and there's a unique interviewing style. And we had a great interviewer. And between he and the polygrapher, it all came together. I guess what frightened all of us who were involved in it, and I think it was a universal response, was when he described what happened, it was the brutality of it. And that was kind of frightening for all of us. We all were a little bit taken aback. He was remorseful, but matter of fact, and that was kind of frightening.
That's what I was going to get at. Number one, and I'm as guilty as this. The day's long. I've gotten better with years of experience. And by the way, I trust dogs more than people. So when you talk about Sadie, things slow down. Yeah, for sure.
Sadie got a case of milk bones. So Sadie was a good dog.
They're the best. They are absolutely the best.
In the Bureau, I have to say, like I said, we occasionally throw rocks at the Bureau and from local side, but in this case, they were fantastic. And it was the supervising agent in San Rafael. He grabbed it right away and made it fit into the missing and exploited children, because we had 3 other young women over the course of about 15 months that went missing in the Bay Area, and so he was able to pull all of that together, make our victim fit the profile, which gave us the Bureau's assistance. So kudos to him, too. Were it not for that, we would never have had the manpower to do the door-to-door.
Before we get into your books and your transition from police work to being an author, Brian, quite often these people do not fit the stereotype of what a killer is supposed to look like. Was that the case with this guy?
Sure. He's a kind of a mild-mannered guy. He worked at a gas station part-time. And then he was a volunteer at the church, and I think he got a stipend to do custodial work at the church. He was liked by the people at the church. No one had anything bad to say about him. No one had anything bad to say about the gas station where he worked. So, yeah, as far as the guy next door, just there was no red flag that, with a big arrow pointing at him.
When I retired from police work, I thought I'd do one of two things, maybe both. Write the great American novel, which I never did, by the way, and open an Irish tavern, which thank God I never did. But you got into writing books. What prompted you to do that?
I think over the course of my career, after law enforcement, I had another career in the public side. I was a vice president of corporate security for NBC Universal for 10 years down in Los Angeles. And then I spent a year with the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art when they were redoing the museum, putting security in. So I got an opportunity to do different jobs, meet different people. So over the course of that time, I kind of kept a folder of interesting anecdotal stuff. And finally, someone was talking with me and said, that's really interesting. You have some really wonderful stories. You ought to write a book. I never really thought about it. So I started doing that, and that's where Oh, What a Tangled Web came from. It's really a composite of people I know, stories I know. The characters are composites of really good investigators that I had known over the years. And then hiding in plain sight is actually this case I just talked to you about, this 13-year-old. The book is loosely based on that story. The difference is the book has a serial killer, which sells books that people love to read about serial killers, but the killer in reality was not. So that's a change for the book, but it is basically the same type of story.
And you have a book soon to release called Greed. What is that about?
That's a little bit different. The protagonists in the books are teams of San Francisco Police Department homicide inspectors. And the stories are all focused in the Bay Area. And I like writing about San Francisco. And so it's a great city. And the nice part about the city is when you write about it, just about everybody has seen the city, whether it's on TV, a movie, et cetera. So when you describe a San Francisco landmark, your book can appeal to somebody in Iowa or New York City or Florida or wherever because they've seen it. So this book is a little bit different in that it starts in Europe. It starts in Paris, and it deals initially in the world of art forgery and art theft, and which is a little bit outside the normal scope of homicide. However, it does come back full circle to San Francisco, to a murder, which involves my characters again, and then pulls the city and the characters into the story.
When I think of San Francisco and I think of the term inspector, I think of Harry Callahan. But it was not like that. Policing was not like that for me. And lastly, people can get information about your books, and can they contact you at goldengatetales.com?
Absolutely. That's the website. And there's a forum there if somebody wants to comment. And there's also a contact page if someone wants to ask a question or something like that, I will make every effort to return the email and get back to them. Try and put that in the books as well. A little thank you at the end for folks who read the book. And if they want to contact me, they can go ahead and do so, and I will make every effort to see to it I respond.
That's goldengatetales.com. Brian, thanks so much for your service and being guest on the show. Both very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank our guests for coming on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. The Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show is a nationally syndicated weekly radio show broadcast on numerous AM and FM radio stations across the country. We're always adding more affiliate stations. If you enjoyed the podcast version of the show, which is always free, please do me a favor and tell a friend or two or three. I'll be back in just a few days with another episode of the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and Podcast. Until then, this is John J. Wiley. See ya.